So for this video, I want to talk about intention as where I put my attention, where I put my focus, and how to embody your intention. So looking at your life and you, and finding out for you, what does it feel like in your body to live intentionally, to set an intention, to walk with it? How does it inform you? What practices do you develop around that intention? So to unpack some of this. So intention, living on purpose, right? Living consciously awake. We're on autopilot way too much of the time. And it causes a variety of things. I mean, anxiety, depression, and just the feeling of like separation and dissonance within our being, all this stuff. So being intentional, being present, being aware, all of this stuff brings all the juicy stuff that we desire: more joy, more love, more belonging. So thinking about, what does it look like in my life? And in order to do that, we have to first, as always, meet what is. So just taking some inventory of your life. How on purpose have I been living in the past year, in the past month? Where do I focus most of the time? Where is my energy and attention most of the time? What are the feelings I feel most of the time? Really diving into those questions of, how fulfilled am I right now? Just taking inventory, right? Leaving the shoulds and the judgments and the comparisons at the door, and just taking a look at where am I? Because the more awareness that we have, the more choice we have, the more power that we have, right? So taking inventory, first thing. The second thing is then to allow yourself to dream. We're starting a new decade. There's no better time than to just tap into that inner child that was so good at imagining, that was so good at dreaming the big dreams, and let it pour out of you. An excellent exercise for this would be to set a timer and just boo, 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 boo. What type of experiences do I want to have in this lifetime? Another great prompt: if I had a year to live, how would I spend my time, right? Okay, I'm 80, I'm looking back at my life. What does it look like? Just really letting yourself dream big. And then going from that into, okay, so then what intentions serve this the best? And trust that, with all of this, with everything really, you'll find your own natural rhythm. You'll start to find your wisdom and your, your signature sauce, your heart song. These are words I've been hearing lately because I've been taking this incredible course, which is more to come. So exciting. 2020 is so exciting. But really getting in tune with that inherent wisdom and that knowing, because we have so much intelligence available to us, and yet most of us, when we're doing these New Year's resolutions, when we're doing anything, any type of growth or change, we're trying to change things from right here, from our cognitive experience and ability. There is so much more available to us if we learn and begin to practice tapping into the body, tapping into the soma, feeling into your heart. It's incredible the amount of power that's available to you when you choose to and allow that type of growth to begin to happen. If you're interested in that, reach out to me. So then looking at intentions. So oftentimes people get super confused about intentions. So I'm just going to lay out how I view them in my personal life. If that serves you, awesome. If it doesn't, just whoosh right along and find what works for you, right? So I think about intentions in kind of these buckets. So for me, there's the who I be intentions. And these are formed from almost like reminders as, anchors that I can come back to that remind me that's who I am, right? They inform how I show up, how I behave, my actions, my being, and that dictates my thoughts and my feelings and the doings, right? And so you can form these in lots of ways and trust that you'll find them, they'll come to you. for me, some of these came from looking at the first part of what is, becoming aware of my tendencies that I don't really desire to encourage, right? So something that I resonated so deeply with was Brené Brown talks about joy foreboding, where something's great, something's really awesome. Our life is like working out, and then we're like waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? We almost deny ourselves the experience of joy in the hopes that that will somehow prevent the pain, the inevitable pain that will happen. So there's a lot of stuff under there. There's trust, right? There's a lot of stuff going on. But for me, knowing that was kind of my pattern or my old belief, so setting an intention for what I desire, right? So now we're in the dream part. I desire to be surrounded by joy and laughter and love, and to feel really deeply and expansively in my being these emotions, joy and happiness and connection and love, to really fill up, to be able to fill myself up with this and to be able to give that. And so an intention that I walk with in this Who You Be bucket is I bring the joy. I am joy. I'm joyous. I experience joy fully. I lean into joy. So these are phrases, these are words. Sometimes it's just the word joy. It's these like little winks, these little things that I put inside my being and externally that remind me like, hey, come back home. Come back home. You get to feel joy. You get to bring the joy. And so then taking that intention and thinking about practices and actionable steps, because I, with everything, embody. That is like my jam, and I think where the most power holds. So just writing it down in a journal one time is not powerful as embodying joy. How does joy feel in my body? What are practices that make that alive in me? What brings me joy? I love nature. I love walking in nature. I love laughing with my partner, right? So then living and embodying those practices and having that be your guide through life. And then looking at actionable steps. Like, I always feel really good after yoga. So, actionable step, committing to a yoga class, right? I always feel good when I get enough rest. So making commitments to, whatever it is you desire for, scheduling your sleep or for learning more if you need to gather data, whatever it looks like for you. But so that's an example of like who you be. Same with the intention, I am love, right? Because I desire to always feel and cultivate that self-love and to be able to receive love and just be and bask in that feeling. So that's kind of the bucket of who you be intentions. There's also, like I said, this is just my mind. There's lots of stuff out there. You can find what works for you. In my mind, there's also intentions in relationships. And these can really help. Oftentimes, what's behind a lot of the fights that we have with our partner or a lot of the crappy vacations we have with our family is because we weren't intentional. And there was what Brené calls stealth expectations, right? We had these expectations that weren't voiced, that didn't get fulfilled, and then we're disappointed and resentful. That happens oftentimes, couples fight on date nights. Why is that? Well, it's because they're not going in with the clear intention and voiced expectations of okay, we have the intention to have fun, to be romantic, to make each other laugh. We just kind of, show up and expect things and hope things, and then we all know. So intentions between people in relationships, and these intentions can be moment to moment, they can change with the day, they can change with the time, or they can be permanent ones. Like every time you see your partner's face, you think connected, loving, open, present. Because if that is your intention that you embody and that you walk with and that you put into your soma and physically feel open and soft and present and connected than when you're in an argument or in an uncomfortable conversation. You have that beautiful ground and solid foundation to come right back to breathe in, and suddenly, you soften. Suddenly you stop talking and you start listening. Suddenly you realize, like, my intention was not to be right about this thing I don't even know what we're fighting about. Like, my intention is to understand, is to show up compassionately, to be open and connected, because I desire a committed, passionate, fearless relationship, right? So going back to the dream, like, what is it that you do desire? Find intentions and begin to embody them and let them inform your being, your doing, your way of living. There's also moment-to-moment intentions. I've shared Brendon Burchard's exercise of the release tension, set intention, which is so beautiful. We transition a bazillion times a day, and oftentimes we're carrying over from one thing to the next. We're driving here, but we're thinking about there, or we're thinking in the future, or we're still holding on to that, crappy guy at the grocery store as we get home or whatever. And there's a lot of from that, because one, you're expending energy, right? So you're more tired, you're more exhausted, you're moving through life kind of on autopilot, and you're not really getting the richness and savoriness and goodness out of each of those chunks of your day. So his exercise is very simple. In between those transitions, you take, a minute or 30 seconds, whatever you have. You close your eyes and you just repeat release, release, release. And once you feel your body soften, then setting an intention for moving forward. So we've all had the experience of either coming home or being the one that is home and having the other person that we live with, come in the door, and it's all of the energy, it's all of the things from the whole day, right? So if you are able to give yourself a moment to, metabolize some of those feelings or just release some of them, and then set an intention for your evening. And it can be so simple. It can really come from the intelligent wisdom that you have in your body, and let that presence you, connect you, ground you, have it be an anchor to come back home to. So look at your life and think about what it is that you do desire. Look at the contradictions between how you're living and how you want to live. Okay, so where are you and what is? And then dream about how you want it to be. And then begin to find intentions to embody, to walk with, to inform your doing and your being. And if all of this is super overwhelming and you're like, this is too much, start really small steps, small shifts. Set an intention daily. Just give yourself, 10 minutes in the morning to breathe and connect in, journal or reflect, and then set an intention. My intention is to be present. My intention is to have a soft front, is to breathe deep, is to bring the joy, is to return to my body, right? You can have intentions based off of different things that you desire to inform your way of being and do it. So I hope that was clearer than it is in my mind when I'm articulating things sometimes. I hope everything made sense. And check out that intention workbook, because that explains things in a much clearer way, because I was typey and not talky. And then the podcast as well goes really well, hand in hand. And think about, if you are in that place where you have stumbled and you have fallen from the New Year's resolutions or from whatever, false pressure that you put yourself under, release, because that's not doing you any good. Get back to your heart. Take deep breaths, soften that front, strengthen that back, open that heart. And always reach out, comment with questions. I'm here. Have a beautiful rest of the week, or whenever you're watching this.